Rika Madsen hadn't planned on becoming the cause of a galactic diplomatic breakdown before lunch. But then again, she also hadn't planned on her morning coffee being cold. And here we were. 17 light years from Earth, babysitting a bunch of bored miners with zero survival instincts and one karaoke machine older than most wars, Rika found herself standing ankle-deep in phosphorescent moon mud on Glebe 47b, staring up at what appeared to be an alien armada attempting a dramatic entrance, slowly with choreography. "Great," she muttered, sipping the lukewarm sludge from her thermos. "Space theater." Officially, she was the Resource Operations Liaison for Rockmule Industries, which was corporate speak for we didn't know where else to stash her after the eyebrow incident. Unofficially, she was the only person with combat experience within 30 clicks and the patience of a caffeine-deprived hyena. The miners were more concerned about the Wi-Fi signal than the 13 battlecruisers forming a flower-shaped intimidation pattern in orbit. "They're probably corporate auditors," shrugged Dave from Logistics, whose main job seemed to involve inventing problems for drones to fix and live-streaming it for clout. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Imperial Harmonix Conclave had just finalized the 729th revision of their conflict escalation manual, complete with 3D flowcharts and scented parchment, and the Floravox Continuum had responded by releasing a strongly worded humming sound into the atmosphere. Somewhere in all that cosmic protocol, the fact that humans had accidentally set up a coffee-fueled mining rig in the middle of their 12,000-year-old mineral rights dispute had gotten overlooked, probably filed under too dumb to bother. But Rika was already bothering. She had filed the initial warning transmission, a 436-page document titled Notice of Impending Strategic De-Escalation Phase 1, under Spam, after the first paragraph used the word heretofore 3 times in one sentence. Her only official response was, if they don't land by Friday, they lose karaoke night privileges. The Conclave, meanwhile, having spent 4 weeks securing interpretive war clearance from the Committee of Harmonious Enforcement Aesthetics, finally launched Phase 2, a fleet-wide polite orbital warning strike at a nearby cliff. The miners, mistaking it for moonquake activity, dispatched a drone team to scan for gold, then uploaded the footage to TikTok with the caption, Lightning Rock Show, Day 3. Dr. Bundal Kuraks, Supreme Executor of the Conclave War Bureau, nearly suffered an aneurysm when he realized his grand tactical gesture had been misinterpreted as mood lighting for karaoke night. The Floravox, jealous and morally offended, hummed louder. The war manual advised mediation. Rika advised taking a nap and maybe shutting the hell up. Things got weirder when a stealth infiltration team from the Conclave arrived at the Rockmule facility, ready for surgical reconnaissance. Unfortunately, they entered through the rec hall and were immediately roped into what they believed was a traditional Earth combat ritual called beer pong. 3 hours later, one of the aliens was sobbing into bean dip, another had requested asylum from the Harmonix hierarchy, and the last was locked in an arm wrestling match with Rika, who was on her 3rd IPA and had just learned that one of them thought her combat boots were ceremonial dominance footwear. She won, naturally. The alien interpreted it as Earth's formal declaration of war. Rika assumed she had won a free lunch voucher. Outside, Dave had hacked one of the eco-drones sent by the Floravox to disable human systems. He reprogrammed it into a floating disco ball that projected multicolor lights in sync with the miners' Friday night playlist. Mostly 1980s Earth. Hits that no alien species had culturally evolved to withstand. When Ambassador Thill, a sentient moss diplomat housed in a glass jellyfish, released a fury of passive-aggressive spores in protest, the humans just assumed someone had eaten expired guacamole. The diplomatic fallout was immediate. The Conclave demanded a formal apology, but couldn't find anyone willing to pronounce Madsen without vomiting mid-syllable. The Floravox demanded reparations in the form of compost. Rika demanded a better coffee machine and maybe fewer meetings. What no one knew yet was that the exotic mineral both sides were fighting over, a glowing pink moss under the mining site, had an unfortunate chemical reaction when exposed to caffeine. the kind of reaction that could turn half a moon into a very apologetic crater. But for now, Rika just took another swig from her thermos, stared at the sky, and muttered, "If that flower-shaped ship pattern starts playing music, I'm punching something." Thus ended her peaceful Thursday. The next morning began like all great military miscommunications do, with an air horn, a broken coffee dispenser, and a celestial bureaucracy planning to fire interpretive lasers at a woman who hadn't yet brushed her teeth. Rika Madsen, hero of precisely 0 wars she knew about, emerged from the prefab barracks on Glebe 47B, wearing her standard-issue rock mule jumpsuit, modified with duct tape and spite, and walked straight into what could only be described as an alien war ballet. Above the dusty horizon, the Harmony Directive Enforcement Armada was now fully deployed, moving in synchronized geometric spirals that some poor species somewhere once thought intimidating. Unfortunately for them, Rika had once been stationed with a Marine unit that practiced synchronized combat drills drunk, so she merely squinted, sipped coffee, and muttered, "That's cute. Call me when they add fireworks." Unbeknownst to Rika, this was Phase 3 of the Conclave's elegant escalation process, orbital intimidation through aggressive shapes. Meanwhile, the miners remained blissfully unaware. Dave, from logistics, was busy teaching 2 Conclave infiltration specialists, still hungover from bean-dip diplomacy, how to make memes on the mining drone's holographic projectors. "Look," he explained to the utterly baffled Dr. Crux via a leaked comms feed. "When you caption your ship formations with 'we form like nobody forms,' you're asking to be roasted." The Conclave nearly declared a full cognitive warfare breach. The War Council entered emergency deliberation, debating whether meme-based sabotage constituted an unsanctioned psychic offensive. Rika, seated in the comms shack with a half-burnt bagel and no patience, intercepted a notice of probable aggressive vibe via galactic fax and stapled it to a wall labeled Future Trash. Simultaneously, Ambassador Thill of the Floravox Continuum had begun to interpret the miners' karaoke night as a ritualized war cry of dominance, especially the moment Rika, wildly off-key, belted "Living on a Prayer" while slamming her boot on a snack crate as a makeshift drum. The Moss diplomat's response was to release an emergency pollen cloud encoded with a 43-line poem expressing grievous existential injury, which triggered Rockmule's fire suppression system. The miners, thinking it was another poorly timed fog machine moment, simply shouted, "Encore!" and turned the disco drone lights to maximum strobe. Floravox eco-drones, designed to shut down hostile tech, now began dancing, literally. Dave had updated their firmware with 1980s Earth music algorithms, and the drones began dropping biodegradable glitter across the camp while playing synthesized saxophone solos. This, to the Conclave, was psychological heresy. To the Floravox, it was confusing but thematically consistent. To Rika, it was Tuesday. Meanwhile, the Galactic War Escalation Manual was now 3 revisions behind reality. Dr. Crux, panicking, attempted to initiate Phase 4, tactical demonstration of power through low-yield precision soundbursts. What arrived instead was a broadcasted opera sung entirely in the Conclave's ancient dialect of legalese, which promptly crashed the miners' comms array and set off a high-frequency feedback loop that made all nearby vending machines dispense cheese-flavored protein bars at maximum velocity. Rika caught 3 mid-air, handed one to a passing alien, and said, "Congrats, you're promoted to lunch." She still assumed they were method actors from HR. The moment everything began teetering toward interstellar meltdown was when Rika, trying to fix the mining scanner, accidentally triggered the emergency terraformer calibration tool, which emitted a caffeine-boosted energy pulse that struck the exotic matter deposit. The ground burped, then it glowed, then it gurgled something vaguely threatening in fungal Morse code. Within seconds, a 12-meter-tall energy moss hybrid reared out of the dirt, blinking fluorescent green, and launched a spore cloud that took out one of the Conclave's war drones, specifically the one broadcasting the flower formation. Doctor, KRX fainted. The war manual caught fire. Ambassador Thill wept sap. Dave live-streamed it with the title, Breaking Rika Anger's Moonplant God. And Rika, standing amid the chaos, protein bar in one hand and coffee thermos in the other, sighed. I swear, if one more alien tries to make this my fault, I'm filing a report. A strongly worded, boot-to-face report. The galaxy braced for retaliation. Rika turned up the intercom and said, "Who wants karaoke?" By the time the Third Alien War Council emergency meeting adjourned with 12 resignations, a collapsed ethics committee, and a conclave flautist being investigated for melodic misconduct, Rika Madsen was halfway through a bag of synthetic nacho chips and trying to rewire the vending machine to dispense caffeinated ice cream. The mining camp, now affectionately referred to by Galactic Intelligence as Sector What the Hell, had descended into what human military doctrine technically classified as strategic nonsense. The energy moss creature Rika had accidentally awakened had, for reasons unknown to science or sanity, begun following her around like a bioluminescent dog that occasionally fired spores at surveillance drones. The miners had named it Greg. Greg responded to karaoke and coffee fumes, which meant he was now part of the night shift rotation. Meanwhile, the Floravox Continuum, interpreting Greg's birth as a sign that Earth had genetically engineered a planetary war god and was now casually using it for waste management, issued a galactic cease-and-beg-for-mercy broadcast via scented air currents. Ambassador Thill tried to negotiate by releasing a peace poem laced with intoxicating pollen, which accidentally caused 3 miners and a conclave comms officer to hallucinate a soap opera starring sentient ferns. Rika, immune thanks to years of bad Navy coffee, slapped a fan onto Thill's containment dome and told him to air it out. The conclave, desperately trying to maintain narrative control, launched Operation Harmonious Deterrence, which involved 500 combat drones executing a synchronized intimidation spiral that looked suspiciously like a fireworks show. The miners, in peak Friday night spirit, assumed it was a prelude to Rika's surprise retirement party. Dave hijacked the conclave's holographic display feed and projected Happy Retirement Boss across the lead battlecruiser. He also played Earth's national anthem. All of them, simultaneously. The resulting audio chaos disabled half the fleet's auditory systems, forcing them to retreat 5 degrees for recalibration and emotional support. Rika, oblivious to the panic she had inspired, was too busy arm-wrestling a Floravox eco-diplomat who had been lured down by barbecue smells over the last beer. She won, again. The diplomat interpreted this as a second Earth War declaration. Rika thought it meant she didn't have to do night patrol anymore. In the background, the reprogrammed eco-drones had fully transitioned into entertainment units, now featuring flameless fireworks, snack distribution subroutines, and synchronized dance routines to Never Gonna Give You Up, which caused a brief but severe diplomatic incident when an ancient conclave treaty was misinterpreted as being violated by pop lyrics. Elsewhere, Greg accidentally inhaled 2 crates of expired caffeine concentrate and began glowing with enough intensity to short out 4 surveillance satellites and send ripples through the subquantum mineral grid. The Galactic War Council, observing the event via panicked live streams, concluded unanimously that Earth had achieved God-tier bioweaponization and that Sergeant Madsen was likely some kind of chaos priestess. They dispatched a diplomatic detachment armed with ceremonial de-escalation fans, 20 lawyers, and a flute choir. Rika met them at the landing pad with sunglasses, a shovel, and a facial expression that said, "You're interrupting my lunch? Break." They began by reciting the 117 official apologies of the conclave. She responded by asking if any of them could fix the toilet in Sector B. Meanwhile, Dave launched a live Q&A session titled Ask the War God, where Greg burbled, oozed and farted neon spores while eating nacho crumbs from a wheelbarrow. The Floravox called it a divine manifestation. The conclave called it a war crime. The miners called it Tuesday. Somewhere in orbit, Dr. KRX was now hospitalized with something called irregular protocol-induced cardiac spirals, and Ambassador Thill was filing a spiritual grievance with the Galactic Harmony Board after a miner accidentally sat on him during a game of musical chairs. Back on the ground, Rika leaned on a rusted railing, sipping coffee with one hand while watching Greg disassemble a Conclave scout drone to build what looked like a glowing mushroom hot tub. She muttered, "If this is diplomacy, I want hazard, pay, and a better playlist." Behind her, a karaoke mic sparked to life and a miner yelled, "You're up, Sergeant!" As the galactic fleet reeled in chaos, one thing was becoming clear. This wasn't war. This was humanity doing what it did best: survive, improvise, and party like they hadn't accidentally broken half the known galaxy's conflict regulations with a barbecue and a playlist. The official beginning of what galactic historians would one day label the incident with the coffee priestess came not with a battle cry or a strategic maneuver, but with the sound of Gunnery Sergeant Rika Madsen grumbling, "Who the hell?" Moved my thermos as she stumbled out of the mess hall with sunglasses, bedhead, and the kind of hangover that could reset timelines. Above her, a final combined show of force had been staged. 37 capital ships from both the Imperial Harmonix Conclave and the Floravox Continuum, arranged in a ceremonial geometric formation so complex it required gravitational calculators, and 3 Harmony priests to maintain. The goal: to intimidate the humans into unconditional surrender via beauty, symmetry, and the majesty of cooperative orbital ballet. Unfortunately, the humans were inside playing drunken dodgeball using expired protein bars, and nobody looked up. The Conclave's flagship beamed down its final communique, an 800-terabyte visual transmission encoded in fractal metaphors and legally binding polyrhythms. Rika, already holding her coffee in one hand and a half-melted breakfast burrito in the other, scrolled through the highlights on a cracked tablet. After the third recursive footnote tried to open a contract with her biometric eyelid signature, she gave up and threw the tablet into Greg, who burped and absorbed it like a glowing sponge. Dave, now wearing a cape fashioned from a torn diplomatic banner, offered her a laser pointer and said, "If you shine this at the big triangle ship, the alien admiral flinches." He was right. The galaxy was unraveling. Floravox eco-diplomats had reclassified the karaoke machine as a Category 5 morale disruptor. The Conclave's internal bureaucracy had formed a splinter faction demanding that Earth be reclassified not as a civilization, but as a planetary-scale prank. And somewhere, in the smoking wreckage of a diplomatic courier vessel accidentally eaten by Greg, who thought it was a vending machine, the final copy of the Galactic War Escalation Protocol burned with quiet, poetic resignation. But then came the final mistake. A Conclave junior officer, fresh out of bureaucratic academy and eager to impress, ordered a non-lethal test shot into the upper atmosphere. A harmless energy pulse meant to display their full fleet's power without causing harm. What it did, however, was agitate the caffeine-sensitive fungal substrate underneath Glebe 47b, the very substance everyone had been squabbling over for 12 millennia. Greg howled. The ground pulsed. A wave of blue-green spores erupted across the mining camp in a perfect sphere of luminous indigestion. Every power relay on the planet surged, exploded, or began playing distorted fragments of Eye of the Tiger. The Floravox interpreted this as divine wrath. The Conclave interpreted it as the beginning of an unsanctioned mythological arms race. Rika interpreted it as Tuesday before coffee. She climbed onto a pile of fusion batteries, stared directly into the nearest orbiting flagship's external surveillance feed, and activated the emergency Rockmule corporate liaison comms channel, AEEE, secure encrypted line that had only ever been used to request toilet paper. "This is Gunnery Sergeant Rika Madsen," she began, holding up her thermos like a sacred relic. "And I am hereby ending this interstellar migraine of a war." Behind her, Greg loomed like a glowing demigod, with indigestion. "You want the fungus? Take it. Be my guest. Bottle it, worship it, Use it as war fuel. I don't care. Just don't touch the coffee machine. I swear to Neptune, you unplug that thing, I will escalate in ways your committees don't have categories for." There was silence. Then the flagship powered down its main cannon. Then another. Then all 37 ships rotated slowly and sheepishly out of formation, like guilty pets pretending they weren't just on the couch. Within hours, both the Conclave and Floravox Continuum issued formal non-apology apologies, reclassified Glebe 47b as a neutral cultural anomaly zone, and submitted an official motion to the Galactic Assembly for a new warfare clause titled Human Containment and Caffeine Proximity Management. Dave got a promotion. Greg got his own habitat dome. Rika got her transfer orders, Earth, beachfront, quiet sector, full pension, and a new coffee machine with 3 safety locks. As she boarded the shuttle, the miners saluted her with beers and bad karaoke. The galaxy would never understand how a Navy SEAL with a thermos, a hangover, and zero interest in diplomacy had ended one of the longest-running territorial disputes in recorded history. But Earth understood. And as the shuttle broke orbit and left behind a glowing trail of spores and confusion, Rika finally smiled, sipped her coffee and muttered, "Maybe next time they'll read the zoning laws."